Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Singer 206 restoration. Between the last video and this one, I reassembled some of the machines, the needle bar and the presser bar, the hand wheel, just because there were some issues that I sort of had to sort out, and it would have taken too long. I was tinkering with it for hours. Still have to sort out some issues, but what I'm going to show you is me reassembling the tension assembly, because that's pretty simple and that's something that a lot of people want to do when they're cleaning out their machines. So what we're going to do first is we've got our tension stud and we have our take-up spring, and that sits nicely on the stud. And this one screws in, so I'm just going to first turn it by hand as much as we can get it. And you want to keep this down here because when it tightens up fully, it's going to bring the spring with it. So I like to keep it down there. And now we're at this point where I can't tighten it with my fingers anymore. And I'm putting on the thumb screw because we don't want to bend these two parts out. So now I'm going to take a screwdriver and sort of just tighten it fully. It seems that our sort of tension receptacle is moving with it, so I never really removed it, but I'm just going to tighten it up just in case. There we go. And it seems like once I tighten that fully, the spring didn't want to go up, so I'm gonna, here we go. Bring that up here. And now I'm gonna tighten the stud. There we go. Oh, let's see. We might even want to bring this up as much as possible and then tighten, because we want a lot of spring action. There we go. That's what we want to see. So that's all ready to go. And our stud's not going anywhere, our spring is where we want it. And we've got our nice newly polished tension discs. So we're just going to slide those on. So this piece actually ought to go on first. That's something new. And let's just make sure that when we lift up our presser foot that this little piece slides forward. Yep, that's what we want. So now I'm just going to put the a little tension gauge back on. Oh, silly me. I've got it on the wrong way. There we go. So we want that little piece to slot in behind so that this stays in place. And now we have our beehive spring. This last piece, which gives us our gauge. And finally our thumb screw. So now everything should be working perfectly. There we go. Now when we lift our presser foot up, our tension discs are nice and loose. Perfect for threading. Put it down, they release again, and our gauge tells us where our tension is at, and our spring is nice and springy. So that is all for the tension assembly. So let's put together the final touches on this machine, and we will have it running just beautifully. So the last thing, something I realized was that I was using oil to clean the hand wheel, and the bobbin winder, which needs a bit of oil, the bobbin winder wheel basically goes on this part of the hand wheel, and you don't want any oil on any part that your bobbin winder tire is going to rub up against. You want it to be nice and clean and dry so that you won't have any issues with getting oil on the bobbin winder tire, which will make it slip and maybe not run properly. So I'm just wiping this with a cloth here just to get all that off. And while I'm here, I didn't clean the inside of this wheel where the belt goes with oil. You should never really do that, but just in case there's any dirt there, it's good to give that a go. There's not really much, but better safe than sorry. Alright, so that's all good and well. And I'm just going to grab a bobbin winder tire from my little thing of parts here. And we're just going to slip it on. And that's all there really is to that. So we now have to make sure. See, we already have a little problem. Oh no, never mind. So the bobbin winder disengaged, the wheel goes back on. And I'll just do that like this for now. Now we want to make sure that our bobbin winder tire will be close enough on the wheel that it will run, but not too close, so much that it will be having too much pressure on it, and so that it won't run. So I'm just going to disengage the wheel, and we'll see where we're at. And I can already tell that it's rubbing up against the hand wheel too much. So what we need to do is, oh boy, this is going to be a little more annoying than I thought, but nonetheless we're going to have to take off the whole belt guard bobbin winder assembly. And we're going to have to adjust this so that the whole assembly is out just a little bit more, so that our bobbin winder tire will not be rubbing against the hand wheel too tight. So let's see. That ought to do it. If not, we'll just have to adjust it again. And I'm only using pliers here because for whatever reason, none of my ratchet driver bits fit on this very well. Maybe that was just a little Singer proprietary trick once again, just like the needles. But let's see how we go. There we are. And let's try engaging the bobbin winder. And now that's better, but I can still feel that it's rubbing against there too much because I have a lot of, it's hard to turn the hand wheel. It should be a lot easier than that. So once again, And now you can see our bobbin winder tire. That's exactly how we want it to be. Just beautifully smooth, ready for winding, and we'll release it. So now that that's all finished, we will going to put on our sort of inspection cover slash spool pin, I should say. And it has this little sort of washer. I'm not exactly sure what it does. Maybe it just holds it down more securely. But nonetheless, it came with the machine, so we're going to use it. Make sure our screw gets in there. Beautiful. And now here's my favorite part of this machine. Look at that, how beautiful and shiny and new looking that face or nose plate came out. And that's really gonna give the machine this beautiful look. It really just sparkles. And I love how it does that. So I just had this screw loose. And now I just have to find where the thumb screw inserts. Just like that. And last but not least, I'm going to tighten up this screw so that our faceplate is nice and secure. Our presser foot, it seems as though it has some rust or the plating is flaking off, so I'm just going to replace it with a different presser foot. Hopefully I can find an original looking one inside of in my parts. Okay, so here I am inserting the machine into the table on its hinges, and at first, for whatever reason, the left side didn't want to go all the way down, even though I hadn't touched the machine set screws ever since I loosened them to leave the cabinet. And you'll see there it kind of just plonks down once I loosen that set screw. And now I'm going to fit the treadle belt. The way I do this is, it's not a method for everyone. It's a little less precise, but I like it. I basically just put the treadle belt in around the hand wheel, and as it would is as if I was sewing. And I just bring the 2 points together and I pull it tight, and I basically just cut the side of the belt that doesn't have a staple where it meets with the other end, or rather on the point where it gets tight. And after that, all I do is I take a finishing nail, a thin nail, and I poke a hole in the end without the nail, the staple in it, with a hammer, and that will create the hole that your staple needs to connect your belt. And here I'm just putting the belt back on again and feeding it all through, and I basically just hook in the staple on the other end of the belt, and I clamp down the staple together with a pair of pliers, and then I test the machine to see if it's the right belt tension that I want, if the belt is too large or too small. In this case, it was just a little bit too loose, so I just went ahead after this and I cut the belt a little bit once more, punched a new hole, and after that I had the right size. So here's our first test of this machine after working on it. I often find that after this I need to make a few slight adjustments either to the tension or maybe the feed dog height. In this case I needed to tighten the bobbin case tension and lower the feed dogs just a hair. But here is the first bobbin winding, and I'll let you watch me thread the bobbin winder, and we're just winding a bobbin and going for a test run. So now I'm threading up the top thread on the spool pin through that first thread guide on the top of the head and through the tension discs around the take-up spring, under that thread guide just to the left of it, through the eye of the take-up lever, through the two thread guides on the faceplate, and then there's one last thread guide on top of the needle, just above the needle, and then through the eye of the needle. And to bring up our bobbin thread, you just bring the needle down and up and draw out the bobbin thread, and we're ready to sew. As you can see, the stitches didn't come out quite perfectly. There's one skipped stitch on that zigzag, and that's likely because of the tension not being fully adjusted. And the feed dogs weren't feeding as perfectly as they should have because of they were a bit too high. So I'm going to do all those little adjustments before the debut video and do a bunch of testing. And that's it.